tears and cold hands shaking from the way. When you lower me down beneath that sky of gray, let the rain fall down and wash away your pain. Will you carry me down the aisle that final day, with your tears and cold hands shaking from the way? When you lower me down beneath the sky of gray, let the rain fall down and wash away your pain.
2016, the 7th of May, the Grand Veiled Wedding. Hey there, I'm back with a new one, a long one but a goodie. Yes, lots of tsunami dreams in my arsenal that are still coming, but I share what I believe to be important first. This dream happened before the experience when I met Christ. It was not as realistic and amazing as that, but I believe it was overwhelmingly significant to share concerning this new trend direction the tsunami dreams are going. The direction of God seeming to whisper a grand event that is fast approaching us. Keep in mind that in my theological training, I was steadfast with post-tribulation teachings, but now all my dreams scream the contrary. Just a few announcements before I begin. From now on, I will do my videos different, as to give the dream overview first, and then my thoughts after, so that those who only have 5 minutes to listen to a dream can do so, while the rest of us study freaks can dive into symbols along with me for the 40 minutes or so. I'm speaking like I have a massive audience. Ha ha. Truth is, God is telling me that I have to prepare to speak to multitudes. There are no signs for this now, but the spiritual preparation I go through seems to convince me otherwise. Something is coming. Even though I would love to summarize this experience, I can't. This video is long because it entails detail. The confirmations and connections with other experience I had with this are ridiculous. And the fact that this dream was brought to my attention twice, that's right, I had it twice. Dreams are dreams. Dreams that seem to be individual manifestations do not interest me. Dreams that pair up, confirm each other in ridiculous ways, or dreams that have out-of-body elements grab my attention. This concentration of dream activity started spiking in 2015, and it's not letting up. I promised to upload things in a quick tempo, but unfortunately things changed in my work environment, so I have less time and energy to do the actual creation and editing of projects. But since I'm not unsure about my mission anymore, I'm allocating all free time, thought and prayer sessions to understanding what I'm receiving so that I can give the meanings more clearly. It is a roller coaster interacting with the Holy Spirit regarding all this. It is a constant streak of wonder and awe that always leaves me surprised at the end of every day. But for now, without further ado, I present the Grand Veiled Wedding. This is a goodie. As previously stated, this dream was given to me twice. The first time happened August 2014. My eldest brother was getting married, so the whole idea of a wedding was pressing in on my head. The very reason I ignored the dream, because I disregarded it as metadata in my head concerning all the wedding hype. I recognized the fact that you sometimes merely dream dreams, where you either relive trauma or where your mind tries to process information or where your imagination just runs wild with wish fulfillment, etc., etc. So I'm having this dream where I'm in some absurdly huge town hall. From the inside, I can see that the building is massive. The ceiling is extremely high up in the air. There is little light inside. It's very dark and almost dimly lit. It feels kind of stuffy or dense with a sense of agitation, expectation, and confusion. I have no idea where I am. None of what I'm seeing makes sense. In this dream, I tell myself, what's up with this dream? Yet I don't fully realize that I'm dreaming. I'm a little scared. Not because of fear, but because of the unknown. Note, at this point in time, I was completely against the idea of a pre-tribulation rapture. This is 2014. My channel was created 2015. There are people around me in this massive town hall. Everything is blurry. Where am I? I walk forward a bit to muster the courage to explore. Note, as I do this, things become a bit clearer. I begin to make out detail. What's this? I'm sitting in something. Is it a basket? I can't really make it out. I was like suddenly teleported into something. There is a woman next to me. She's dressed nicely, but I can't make out why I am making that conclusion. I can't see how she's dressed, but I realize she's dressed nicely. Note, with me in this basket thing is my two younger brothers, not my eldest brother. I can't make out details about them, but I know they are with me, and the woman in this thing. Yes, this dream includes personal things about my life too, but also general messages for everyone. We are parked in this town hall, on this thing, just stationary there on the wooden floor, surrounded by all this mystery. Suddenly I notice we are behind a tall wall within this building. There is like a temporary wall that is put up especially for this basket thing. Basket thing is standing behind the wall, so that it can be kept from view from the rest of the town hall, like a dry wall that you would put up to make more compartments or rooms in a building. This wall serves a purpose as to veil this basket and its passengers from the rest of the event. This basket is not going anywhere, and the passengers seem frozen. Not frozen in time, they are moving and they are conscious, but they are waiting patiently. It's as if these dream figments were not yet ready to be activated. Annoyed at the passive dream figments, I jump out to explore more. I'm back where I was before the dream teleported me to the basket. Basket. What was that thing? I still see them parked behind the section wall over at the back corner of the hall. I see people waiting around and just standing and talking or looking at the hall and musing. All normal people, mundane individuals. I see no one of importance or exceptional beauty. Everyone looks the same. It's like they are individuals, but they are the same. It was very odd. I realized that we are in a town hall, so it is possibly just the locals or something. This town hall was filled with normal people. All or any people of the designated town and beyond were welcome. It was an open invitation, just like a town hall belongs to everyone. This sudden impression of the town hall brought the parable of the wedding banquet to my attention in Matthew 22. Matthew 22:10. So the servants went out into the highways and gathered together as many as they found, both bad and good, and the wedding was filled with reclining guests. Why was everything so dark? I saw dim lights all over. I see tables, but I can't make out the contents or the details of all the furniture. I see some people packing and preparing. So now I wonder, what are people preparing for? There are a few girls and women practicing with these worship flags and banners you get in charismatic churches. I chuckle a bit because I always laugh when I see them flitting about like butterflies, trying to liven up every worship session. I'm a bit calloused and logical. Things like this don't fancy me. I grew up in charismatic churches. But why is this nonsense in my dream? Okay, so this is a church thing, I guess. Suddenly, another annoying teleportation. I see the woman that was with me in the basket. She's talking with her female wedding planner. They are both smiling and excited. They are going over details for her wedding and playing with ideas and recommendations for the decor, etc. Both of them very happy, both of them very excited and very enthusiastic about planning for the wedding and, all those fine things that women go on about. They were busy with this. So I realized, okay, this well-dressed woman is getting married. Boom! The dream ends. And the train horn sounds on the outside. I wake up. My brother's wedding day starts. I forget about the dream because of previously stated reasons, and that day marked the beginning of months and months of elements that you saw in my previous dream, prepare, die, repeat. Time goes by. I move back from Johannesburg to Cape Town, and the surge of tsunami dreams and other experiences violently takes over my life. My 5-year plan is replaced with a few months worth of grinding sessions to contribute to a sounding call, warning that something is coming on the earth. No weddings, no thought of weddings due to my own personal relationship sabotages, a lot of problems, a lot of supernatural events, and a lot of turmoil in the world and inner turmoil concerning post-tribulation and pre-tribulation teachings weighing on my head. All of this later, and then I get this dream again. Recently this year, more than a year later since I first received this dream. But now, in this dream, things were different. Again, the dream starts. I see this massive ceiling. It's so huge. Everything is dimly lit. What is... Ooh, I'm excited! Wah! Excitement is burning my nerves. It's a wedding. I knew it was a wedding, but I realized it's a wedding. The dim lights are adjusted a little bit brighter because I sense the wedding is starting. I look around and I see people more clearly. They are all pretty common still, but they are dressed in the best clothes they can afford, while those that are preparing the wedding are still dressed in their working clothes and carrying things or the tools they use to help decorate the place. So you have the normal people and the people preparing the wedding, the normal people dressed in their best, and the working people kind of in their slacks with rulers and hammers and things, just walking about trying to fix up the whole hall for the event. Everyone is ready or getting ready. Tables are arranged and are set or being set for the final hour of the ceremony. I'm so not for weddings at this point in time, but the dream's wedding expectations were getting under my skin at that moment. I decide in the dream that my life sucks too much to pass up these good vibes, so I start running around, focused on enjoying every bit of this wedding. Boom! I'm in that basket again, but this time I'm intrigued. The bride is my mother. She's dressed in a wedding gown that is sewn with gold. No, not a gold-colored dress. This dress was somehow woven with actual gold threads. As light as a cloth. Impossible. Something like this could not be done with human hands. Light is playing off the gold dress. It's kind of light is bouncing off the gold dress in a unnatural way. As masculine and cold as I try to be, I can't keep it in. I burst with excitement over everything that I'm seeing. We are in a sled. The basket is a sled, like a snow sled. I've never been in a sled, a big sled or a sleigh, I'm not sure which one. The sled body is made of a very white wood and lined with silver on its edges and extremities, actual silver. The wood finishes and extremities was kind of a fantasy wood style. It gave off a fantasy feeling, like types of architecture elves would use. Fanciful twigs and branch finishes protruded from the sides of the sled. Pastel-colored reins were hanging in front of the sled. I started noticing pastel-colored banners on the walls and hanging from the ceiling. They were everywhere. I look at the bride and she is smiling so widely that it made me want to be the bride. What was I thinking? Kind of trying to collect myself. But I couldn't help it. I was so happy for her. But I'm also on the sled. This is my special privilege, in being her son, that I get to ride on it too. My 8-year-old brother is also with me. We are ecstatic. We are freaking out like little girls, smiling, laughing, playing and pointing at all the awesome things we were seeing. In real life, I would rather die than act like this. Note that this was an impossibly huge, pretty common and unimpressive town hall. The employees doing the decorations tried their best to accommodate this hall with the event that was actually very royal. The attempt was very humble. The meaning was very royal. The physical attempts to make it look royal was sad at best, but it still made everything look so awesome. If you saw a picture of it, you'd think, well, what a budget wedding. But if you are in the wedding, at that wedding, in that atmosphere, it was totally different. There is a feeling of poverty trying to accommodate riches. I guess the bride was poor and the bridegroom was very rich. The bride was certainly not dressed poorly. Oh my, what's this? My eldest brother is sitting on the sled as well, but outside the cockpit on the rails of the sled. Almost not in the sled. It's like he wants to be on the sled, but he does not really want to be at the wedding. He is forcing himself to reluctantly go along with the wedding. He is acting like a teenager that would rather be doing his own thing. Something restrains him from walking off. Something is keeping him on the sled. A tiny bit of him is happy, but not much. He has his doubts about who the bride is going to marry, and he dislikes most of the guests there. He is being included with the wedding against his will, or better judgment. My thoughts are interrupted with worry. The guests! The guests! The wedding is about to start! Where is my other younger brother? I quickly jump out of the sled, and now this isn't the youngest 8-year-old brother. I have another younger brother. I quickly jump out of the sled and run past all the people to the lobby or reception area of the town hall. Outside I find my other brother. He is not dressed in wedding clothes. He is dressed like a gangster. I kind of interrupt him. He is busy making arrangement with some other gangsters. The gangsters shy away and try to act like I'm not realizing the fact that they were just now dealing with my brother. They shy away from me. They try to avoid me. They were trading or making plans. My brother kind of eyes me to get lost because I'm interrupting something. I realize that I was going to miss the wedding myself, so I quickly tell him the wedding is about to start, and that if he does not come inside quickly, the door will be closed until the wedding is over. I stress his birthright place on the sled. He takes note. He worries a bit, but tells me to go because there is enough time for him to finish. I try to urge him, but then I hear the music beginning to play, and therefore I dart back to my place on the sled. Boom! Somewhere lights go on. Not the dimmed lights. They are still burning dimly, but from somewhere a bit more light is being shined. The now wedding hall is still kind of dimly lit, but you can see more as the event was starting. The sled began to move, moving backwards. How? I looked behind the sled to see that ropes were pulling it in reverse. Nowhere throughout the entire dream did I see who was pulling the ropes. The sled was being pulled backward, and eventually it would pass the section dividing wall and around the corner, up and down the hall until its end destination. It's going to go around the wall in reverse and up the aisle. Today on the 17th of June, I realized the only reason I can find for these ropes pulling something backward according to a biblical reference is the disputed claim that a priest entering the Holy of Holies could die during the ritual of atonement. In case of death, he would be pulled backward and out of the temple's inner sanctum through a rope that was fastened either around his middle or on his ankle. I only today realize and believe this speaks something about being dead to religion and alive to a relationship with God. The process of being pulled away from the hidden confines of ritualistic institution into a grand realization that there is more to God. There is no longer a need for sacrifice. The veil is torn. The scene of the dividing wall section and the backwards pulling of the vessel carrying the bride is some kind of playful reference or teaching on this entire idea. Slowly, methodically, we are moving backward, and I started to pay attention to the dim lights that initially lit the hall. They were oil lamps. Oil lamps on the walls and on the tables. Some were on stands here and there. Oil lamps. Oil lamps. When I woke from the dream, the first thing that came to me was the parable of the virgins. Electricity was not being used and no technology for anything. The source of the music could not be seen. Everything that was being used was some humble attempt to create what had to look like an extremely grand wedding. We passed the dividing wall, and around the corner on the other side of the wall I saw clutter. Things, furniture and articles that usually stood in the hall for original purposes were pushed away and irrelevant to what was happening. Everything was stacked away in a hurried manner. Not a lot of attention was given to the neat packing away of the clutter. It was simply in the way and kind of an eyesore to the rest of the wedding. This too is some kind of reference to the annoying clutter of ritualistic endeavors. Rituals and traditions are reminders or endearments that facilitate appreciation. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people that hinge saving power on earthly rituals. Slowly we were moving down the hall. The excitement was excruciating. Since we passed the wall, I could now see the length of the hall. There was no end. I couldn't see the other end of it, only the width. It brought to mind the narrow way to eternity and the wide path to destruction. It felt almost tunnel-like, but not entirely. Some near-death experiences testify a tunnel vortex just before entering heaven. I'm just saying. Since leaving the confines of the dividing wall, women took up the pastel-colored banner reins of the sled and started flapping them, producing a gentle wind. They were moving, swaying, and flapping the reins of the sled with an elegant reverence, and were lost in thought as they worshipfully carried out their role. We passed children and other women in front of and on either sides of the sled that were also dancing and swaying these worship banners. On their own, people were in front of the sled flapping the reins, and then others were farther off, not flapping sled reins but dancing on their own with worship flags and banners. Now, I was not laughing at them. I was captivated. It did something to me. I was entranced with the impulses of colors and beauty, things I'm not usually intrigued with in real life. In a sense, this dream had no right over my normal mental factions or orientation. The feelings I were experiencing were amazing. I felt transformed. The women and children kept dancing and displaying their skills with the flags. Something told me that they were training for this moment their whole lives. This was a strange statement that was planted in my head because some of these worshippers were only children. Hashtag pre-trib. Enter the funny black guy. One of the wedding planners, or specifically the wedding measurer, arrived on the scene. This was your typical Cape Flats joker, speaking and jesting the way only a true Capetonian can. He came in with pomp and enthusiasm, making jokes and saying Players' Day things with an accent and zest that made those around him bubble over with laughter. Extreme humor. He was elaborating and motioning with his hands and entire body that he is now making the final measurements because the wedding had to be perfect. He broke the seriousness, but added to it the absolute light-hearted joy of the celebration. Everything was magnified with his addition to the celebration. Here's the thing. He was dressed and acting the way a stereotypical gay guy would. He was acting and he was dressed the way a stereotypical gay guy would be. Some of you closed the video just now. Some are waiting for my next words. Some can't wait for the justification that's coming. All of you will be surprised. I had my thoughts in this dream. This guy was not straight. Definitely not. Not this guy. He was all about dresses and flowers and fully facilitating the feminine side of humanity more so than the bride. No one could outwoman this guy. We passed him, breaking our guts with laughter. He would soon show up again at the climax of the event. What is my opinion regarding the elephant in the room? If you asked me, I would tell you what does the Bible say. If you called me a hateful bigot, then I would tell you to do whatever you want, but I have my own life to live, my own way, and with my own things I don't understand. I had a great LGBT guy friend and female friend when growing up. I'm just calling it LGBT because anything you say gets you in trouble. I think that's the safe term. If they asked me then, I would say I didn't approve. These were great friends for a long part in high school. But if they asked me then, I would say to them I didn't approve. You know what? The next week we would still be hanging out together. That's me. What's you? Like I said, the wedding measurer will show up later. I believe God was conveying something about gender orientation and race here. Keep it in mind. The female wedding planner also showed up, along with my biological dad. They didn't arrive together, they just appeared on the scene at the same time. The bride motioned for the planner to come closer, and she did so reluctantly. She was different from the woman in the first dream. She was tired, fed up, annoyed, and all stressed out. She has really been working hard to make this wedding work, and it seemed like she didn't have enough help. When she reached the bride excitedly babbled some more final things that she needed ready before the climax of the ceremony. The bride didn't see, but the planner rolled her eyes and this time forced herself to be excited with the new additions. The bride was oblivious to the planner's struggles. Clearly, there was no time left for final pleasantries. The ceremony had already started. The planner was annoyed when she asked if that was all, and then she hurried away to carry out the requests. Later on, when the wedding came to its fruition, the planner was relieved, happy, and satisfied with all the effort. I have a sneaking hunch that this wedding planner is a representation of the Holy Spirit or some other element of the entire dream meaning. My father was very frantic, trying to make sure the final things were in place. He was babbling and darting around to make sure security was in place, tables were set, the way was clear for the sled, and that the music would play on its correct cues. He was incredibly serious about people going to their designated spots because everything had begun and it was about time for people to straighten up. He seemed very stern, but like a genuine, worried sweetheart. Yes, I just said that. I just said a lot of things in this dream description, and I just said this man gave off the feeling that he was just a genuine, worried sweetheart. Again, this dream does not belong to my psyche at all. I can only convey what I genuinely saw and experienced. You felt sorry for him in his agitation, but also very thankful for his appreciation, help, and urgency. The father in this dream could represent God the Father, or some other element of the entire dream meaning. Possibly church fathers, or reverends, or pastors. Maybe it just tells me something about my earthly dad. People frantic about the external rather than entering the peace of God and enjoying what's happening. We passed the worshippers and the apparent event coordinators. My middle brother did not enter the wedding hall. Everything had started and he was nowhere to be seen. We were moving backward between the tables and down the aisle. I noticed the decor and the dining. Don't get me wrong, the picture illustrates what I've seen, but that's not the case. The tables were plain, the chairs were plain. Some elegant articles were visible, but mostly seemed like the existing items of the town hall were repurposed for a wedding, as if the wedding was rushed or as if the wedding could not be held at its intended venue. A lot of resources were pooled into this wedding, but not enough to make it genuinely look as it should. But this was all fine. There was a sense of wholeness in the air despite the imperfections. It all felt like a medieval royal wedding. Pastel, decor, banners, and throws were primary. The ceiling seemed to be as high as the sky, but the banners were hung from wall to wall to show where the ceiling should be. I could see lofty yellow tinted windows, dark, almost dark orangey tinted windows, barely letting light through, way up against the walls. The ceilings were really high up against the walls, kind of strange old churchy windows, not stained glass, but that yellow dark glass, and sunlight was barely penetrating the windows. They were huge. The higher you looked up, the more it seemed like eternity. The further you looked down the hall, the more it seemed like eternity. We were approaching the bride's dining table, and I could see that behind it were even more tables going on and down the hall. I excitedly glanced back and forth between all the elements of the ceremony. I was most happy for the bride. Her anticipation invigorated me. I stared off into her endless smile, and it all felt like a happy ending to a life of hardship, and that everything will always be okay from now on. This happiness could never be erased. I was lost in thought when the very pink wedding measurer showed up again. The funny black guy. This time all his doodads, doodles and props were gone. He was very different. He was dressed top-notch in his tuxedo and emanated manliness. Not masculinity, not bearded, boisterous, brash and earthly manliness. He was something else, something more. He was more than most men in the assembly. He was dressed the best. He was extremely well-groomed. He was the master of ceremonies. He seemed transformed, and we will all be that day. Race and other human trappings of stereotypes or identity were gone. I kind of waited for him to pop a joke, but he was just ready in his position. His professional nature was enough to make the whole hall quiet down. Loudly, boldly, and as powerful as a boxing ring announcer, he proclaimed and pointed to a certain window up against the wall. "Ladies and gentlemen, the groom, the son of man!" Dat gaan nie werk nie. "Ladies and gentlemen, the groom, the son of man." Nee, hy werk nie ook nie.
Ladies and gentlemen, the groom, the son of man.
My realization, surprise, and the slow turn of my head toward the window happened in unison. I said, "What?" as I was shocked to comprehend that this was actually the wedding supper of the Lamb. He burst through the window, glass flying, entering the scene like an action hero, but also with the glory of a king. Glass flying. I should be dodging the flying glass, but my mouth is hanging open alongside the gasps of the assembly. It was like no one was expecting this except the wedding measurer or the master of ceremonies. A master of ceremonies is usually a trusted, capable or well-known representative. Christ was the groom. The cheers were deafening. He exploded into the town hall, not from the outside of the building, but out of a dimension of glorious lights and magnificent clouds behind him. He exited heaven and entered through the ceiling window of this humble wedding hall. It was his time. No one cared about the shattered window that was not even worth being broken by him. The shattering window only contributed to the awesomeness, almost like the awesome feeling of breaking plates at those Greek celebrations. Everyone was cheering. I started to become aware that I was dreaming and that this was not my mind's comprehension. My mind, it's like I was surprising myself. So this wasn't my mind. This couldn't have been my mind. The colors and the imagery that I saw could not have been created by the factions of my imagination. I had no idea this would be the outcome. God just showed up in this plain building and he was marrying the golden bride. In this experience, I began to realize rapture and the everlasting. The shock was too much. He was nearing the sled that arrived at the table and was coming closer and closer. His face shone brilliantly, and he wielded a brilliant sword, powerfully and skillfully. Everyone was gripped with a fear of admiration and longing. Everything was going to be okay. He was here. The wedding quality just skyrocketed. This was the best ever. My head was hanging to the side of my pillow and I was staring at my dirty carpet thinking, what? That's right, I'm in my room. It's time to go to work. For a moment I thought either my brain or God was cruel to disconnect me from that. But then I also began to interpret the initial impressions and realized, he's coming back. Do I have something against other races or gender orientations? I'd rather use my energy on things other than conflicts that only restrain minds from waking up to more important things that are happening. We are all struggling with our humanity. The most important thing is, are you nearing Christ in a personal relationship that transcends books and rituals? Have you ever gone into the wild, into nature, and cried out to Him to reach out to you in a literal, personal, and supernatural way? Do you know Him? Does He know you? Do you yearn for a solution greater than a quick fix? Do you know there is such a solution? Have you done all of this and failed before? Did you know that God reaches out, but that Satan is just as real and hinders outreaches? Like that. Make the effort. Break through. Come into the grand veiled wedding. It's starting.
Chapter 22. Jesus spoke to them again in parables, saying,
The kingdom of heaven is like a king who prepared a wedding banquet for his son. He sent his servants to those who had been invited to the banquet to tell them to come, but they refused to come. Then he sent some more servants and said, Tell those who have been invited that I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and fattened cattle have been butchered, and everything is ready. Come to the wedding banquet. But they paid no attention and went off, one to his field, another to his business. The rest seized his servants, mistreated them, and killed them. The king was enraged. He sent his army and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. Then he said to his servants, The wedding banquet is ready, but those I invited did not deserve to come. Go to the street corners and invite to the banquet anyone you find. So the servants went out into the streets and gathered all the people they could find, both good and bad, and the wedding hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to see the guests, he noticed a man there who was not wearing wedding clothes. Friend, he asked, how did you get in here without wedding clothes? The man was speechless. Then the king told the attendants, Tie him hand and foot and throw him outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are invited, but few are chosen.
Then the Pharisees went out and laid plans to trap him in his words. Chapter 25.
At that time, the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, and 5 were wise. The foolish ones took their lamps, but did not take any oil with them. The wise, however, took oil in jars along with their lamps. The bridegroom was a long time in coming, and they all became drowsy and fell asleep. At midnight the cry rang out, Here's the bridegroom! Come out to meet him! Then all the virgins woke up and trimmed their lamps. The foolish ones said to the wise, Give us some of your oil, our lamps are going out. No, they replied, there may not be enough for both us and you. Instead, go to those who sell oil and buy some for yourselves. But while they were on their way to buy the oil, the bridegroom arrived. The virgins who were ready went in with him to the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Later the others also came. Sir, sir, they said, open the door for us. But he replied, I tell you the truth, I don't know you. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know the day or the hour.
And color, the moon appeared, and it's like someone took an ice pick and poked the moon. Then blood began to ooze out of the moon, and then all the stars in the heaven began to fall all at once, and then the sky itself began to roll up as a scroll, and it was happening simultaneously. The moon turned to blood. The stars fall from the heaven. The sky roll up as a scroll. And all of a sudden, I seen a woman with long black hair. She was beholding what was happening, coming upon the earth. And she began to take her fingernails and dig in her face and scream and holler. Then I seen hundreds of people running, thousands of people running, and the horror on their faces. And what God allowed me to sense what they were feeling, total helplessness, total terror. And all of a sudden the vision disappeared and I fell to the ground and I was trembling and shaking. I was like, oh my God, what did I see? Sid, I didn't know anything about visions at the time. Mothers with their children going into the grocery stores, people pumping gas, businessmen with their ties and briefcase going into the buildings. Then all of a sudden, a thick darkness and clouds started appearing upon the earth. And then all of a sudden there was a sound from heaven, a sound that I have never heard before in all my born days. It was like 7 claps of thunder, other than to one. The sound was so deafening. Not only did it pierce the ears of all mankind, but it began to pierce their skeleton, that when they heard it, their bodies began to shake and quake. And this sound was so deafening, people began to scream. Then all of a sudden, like someone took a razor blade and split the heavens. Then here come the Son of God with all his bands of angels and all his glory. Oh, see it, and the colors were glorious, splendid, magnificent, glorious, the blues, the golds, the greens. I never seen such colors like this. And he was coming speedily on the earth. Then people began to urinate on themselves and scream. And then one man said, no, wait. I thought I had time. But too late. All time had ran out for all mankind.
The next thing to happen on God's calendar is not the second coming of Jesus, but rather the awakening of the church, the cry, sometimes called the midnight cry, in advance of the second coming. At that time, says Jesus, the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins, 5 wise, 5 foolish, all of them asleep. That's exactly where we are right now. The wise virgins took oil in their lamps. The foolish virgins did not take oil. Now this is the message that the church needs today. Get ready.
Carry me down the aisle that final day, with your tears and cold hands shaking from the way. When you lower me down beneath that sky of gray, let the rain fall down and wash away your pain. Will you carry